Good morning, good night, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Hey, Roger. Hey, Mateo.
Morning.
Good morning.
Night for you. Night for me. Evening for here.
Nice. Here, as you can see, it's morning. Like that, a dark morning yet.
Nice. So we're going to do a digital transformation with Lean Inception. It's a talk. Let us introduce ourselves. So I'm Paulo Caroli. I work at ThoughtWorks. I'm a consultant. I've been on the Agile and Lean industry, helping organizations be more lean and more agile for quite a few years. And I'm also the author of Lean Inception. Roger.
Yeah, I'm Roger Almeida, currently head of digital for DNX, AWS partner consultancy company. Have been helping companies to develop digital products using cloud native mentality and technology. Had the pleasure of working with Paulo since 2010 until 2015, I believe, running a few inceptions as well. And I'm a big fan of all the mentality about Lean Inception and how it can revolutionize the way to develop new digital products.
Oh, it's nice.
Mateo.
So hi, I'm Mateo. Right now I'm self-employed. I work for my let's say my thing, workshops by Mateo.com. I work in IT since 2006, and I'm a certified design sprint facilitator and the Lean Inception trainer. So I can say that nowadays I facilitate spaces, like safe spaces to make things happen. So Lean Inception is like the food for brains that I use almost every day.
Nice.
Happy to be here.
Let's explain how it's going to go. So I have a short presentation. I'll try to make it in 20 minutes about digital transformation with Lean Inception. And then we're going to have an open conversation here. So we ask you in the audience to send your questions and comments on YouTube, and we'll be answering and talking about it. Cool. So let me start sharing my presentation, which is here. And one second, this is the presentation, and I'll have us next to it. So digital transformation with Lean Inception. And Mateo and Roger, by all means, if you want to interrupt at any point and bring extra information, please do so. I want to start with this story. It's from the book Alice in Wonderland. So Alice asks the cat, would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? The cat answers, that depends a good deal on where you want to get to. Alice says, I don't much care. And then the cat, then it doesn't matter which way you go. So if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there. That's the main idea, the sentence that's very interesting from the book Alice in Wonderland. So do not work like Alice in Wonderland. You should know where you want to get to, and then use the proper tools, the proper methodologies, the proper process to help you get there. So I want to talk about flexible planning, which is very important, especially nowadays after COVID. We know that things change a lot, and Lean Inception, OKR, Scrum, they fit very well into this complex world with constant change. Therefore, you need flexible planning. So the first thing is the vision. What is the vision? Vision is that ultimate goal. It's a long-term thinking. You need to describe it clear, concise, in a way that everybody adheres to it. I'll give you one quick example. Accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That's the vision from Tesla. It's very simple. All the employees, all the world know that's their vision. And then, they'll do a lot of things to help get Tesla and the world in this direction of their vision. Okay, you have a vision, which is awesome. You need to have a workshop like Mateo does a lot of workshops to unify and understand the vision. And now what? Well, that's where you go about the strategy. Strategy is the way to make the vision happen. When we talk about strategy, now things can get a little overwhelming because there's just so many different process and methodologies, waterfall, agile, lean, scientific, lean, startup, dual track, which, by the way, the three of us here, if we sum all the words and buzzwords we like, we would feel like 10 slides of this. So I want to bring about a combination of few of those that are very powerful and have been used by many organizations. So the first one is OKR. The thing is, before, on the old days, or when the world was more predictable, we would make a plan and follow a plan. It was like a train wreck. Okay, we know we need to get from this city to this other city. We build a train wreck, then we do like all the project plan for building the train wreck, and we're going to follow it. We'll try to follow that plan. In fact, we don't like things to go away from the original plan. But the world has changed, and a world more complex where Agile and Lean are more suitable for. It's more like following a trail, not a train wreck. So we know the vision is the top of the mountain. We know when I get there. But then we aim at the first base, and then we make a very short plan to get to the first base, but we learn and adapt, because we will learn with the environment, things change, it's a complex world, the climate change, whatever it is, we learn and adapt. So nowadays, more complex situations, which majority of the organizations have been through, they're facing a world with a lot of complexity, that things keep on changing. It's better to work on the Agile and Lean way, learning and adapt. OKR helps you with that. Why is that? Because OKR helps you answer those two questions. Where do you want to go? Oh, it's the top of the mountain. Let's understand what is the top of the mountain for us. And then, how do we know if we're getting there? In fact, with OKR, we might discuss, oh, it's the top of the mountain, but then let's have the OKR for the first base. And then the question, like, how do we know we're getting there? Basically, you're answering those two questions. Where do you want to go? And how do we know we're getting there? That's your objectives and then key results. But OKR does not tell you exactly how to get there. And then that's where a framework like Scrum that's really good for complex situations help you out. So Scrum is a framework for developing and sustaining complex products. The definition consists of roles, events, artifacts, and the Scrum rules to keep all those things integrated. I won't go in details about Scrum Framework now. If you have questions, please do so, and then we go in details of whatever you want to talk about. But Scrum is great. Scrum works on sprints, repeatable sprints, where the team has the goal for that sprint, and then before going on that period, they figure out, okay, what do we need to do for that goal of that period. At the end, they verify what did we achieve. They have retrospectives to talk about continuous improvement towards getting to their overall goal, hopefully the OKR. So that's a quick summary on the Scrum. So in simplifying things, so you do have the vision, and then you align and decide, okay, what are the OKRs? Where do we want to get to? How do we know we're getting there? And then you work on these continuous iterations. Use a framework like Scrum. That's awesome, right? Everything connects really well. But I need to tell a reality. This is not a simple step. It's not because you have a great OKR and you did an awesome session, awesome workshop with Mateo and Roger together. You have OKR, like, it's not just say to the team, okay, now go work on Scrum and go figure out. This is not a simple step. That's where a good process like a Lean Inception helps align a group of people to understand, okay, now that we understand where do we want to get to, how do we connect this into what has to be done on every single week of work that we're going next. So that's where Lean Inception comes to. That's where we're going to have the conversation today, how workshops like Lean Inception help you with this digital transformation. That's going to be guided by a large vision that you figure out on OKRs. The several teams are working on their Scrum way, and you do need some of those workshops like Lean Inceptions to align and bring things back from that higher vision level OKRs into the daily things the team will be doing on their sprints, on their weekly iterations. So very quickly summary, a Lean Inception is a highly collaborative workshop where you bring people together for 1 week. Here's an example from some real Lean Inceptions. Before COVID, nowadays do the same remotely. A lot of people talking here, I see people from the business, from the user experience, usually UX people, service design people that understand the user needs, and the technology, the people from the technology of that thing that's being built, that solution that's being built. They come together to try to understand how do we get there, how do we achieve that OKR, those goals. And Lean Inception is a sequence of activity. It's a 1 week workshop. similar to design sprint. That's also 1 week. Later, Mateo, you need to tell us the difference between design sprint and Inception. And on that week, everybody gets together. Day one, we understand more of the business goals for that solution, that product that we think will help us achieving those goals, those OKRs, product vision, what it is, what it's not, what it does not do. Day two, we'll put ourselves in the shoes of the personas. Who are the main personas? What are their journeys? Let's understand from the user perspective. And then day three, we do a brainstorming. Okay, now that we talk about the business goals for this solution, on day two, we talk about the user needs and their journeys. Let's look at these and say, okay, what should we build, as a solution, as a product, to help us getting closer there. Then we do a review from those three perspectives: the business, the user experience, and the technical aspect of each of those small pieces that we think might help the business and the users. And then after that, on day four, we look back at the journeys and then we say, okay, now with those ideas of features, how are we improving the user experience? And once we understand it, we use the sequencer where you're going to put and decide what is the sequence that we should work on this solution or this product or this service. Then decide the sequence, decide an order. Hopefully you're very influenced by Lean Startup, and then you figure out what is the minimum that I should do, the minimum viable product, the minimum I can do so I can put in the hands of the users and validate the business hypothesis that I'm good, that I'm moving on a good direction. And then you put this on an MVP canvas that will help you frame your strategy. And then you have a showcase where you present this to the other people that are very interested with the direction of this solution, this group of people building. So I summarized to Lean Inception, and I try to connect the dots between there is a digital transformation, your organization has a very important vision, bring it to OKRs, to the teams, to the areas, and then from the OKRs, if you run the Lean Inception workshops, you are able to translate this into the daily basis work that several teams in your organization should be doing. Roger and Mateo, that was the short presentation I want to bring to everybody that's listening to us right now. Now I want to hear from you, your experience, because I know you've been doing this a lot.
Totally.
What's your opinion and all those things that I was talking here and how they connect?
Nice. So allow me to start, Roger. Just want to say something really quick. And it's that, in my experience, Lean Inception is the glue, right? The glue between OKRs, as you mentioned, OKRs, the vision, strategy, OKRs, agile, design thinking, and all that buzzwords that we commonly use, right? And in my experience, this process, Lean Inception, opens a safe space, right, to empower or to ensure diversity, to empower people collaboration, right? Mostly nowadays that we are living in this remote world, and collaboration is kind of it's difficult, right? So hear all the voices, etc., and ultimately, just in general, right? Ultimately impacts in the culture, in the organizational culture. So, in my opinion, is key, right? It's a great process. I know, Roger, if you want to tell about your experience.
No, great, Mateo. I would like to talk about the things that we don't talk much. We don't talk about the illusion of certainty that everybody has, that their idea is the right idea, that they know exactly what their customer wants, that they know exactly how to build it, and they have the perfect future in their mind. And that person normally is the person who is saying, we have this project, we have this product idea, I have this startup, I have this new project to execute this year. So now that we align on the OKR, I know exactly how to build it, when we're going to build it, how we're going to put it in the market, the go-to market, and everything else. And then normally that decision maker makes that decision inside a room with other decision makers, and that the team who's going to execute it is not connect to it at all. And if we look at what's happening in the market now in digital products, having the technical team as a key contributor to this idea before writing the first line of code, before creating, before investing, committing to the most expensive resource in a digital product, which is the engineering team. That's so crucial. So that to me is the glue. And I agree with you, Mateo. That's the glue, and that's the beautiful thing about the Lean Inception, that instead of going to your boss or going to the sponsor of the project or going to the CEO, founder of your startup and saying, actually, I don't think your idea is a good idea, you invite that person to say, hey, fantastic, come here. Let's unpack this. Who are the personas? What's the user journey? What are the things that you cannot see? Let me help you see what you believe you can see, but it's not there yet. And nobody can see it. And that's the beautiful thing, because everybody is, there are so many people who are afraid of having hard conversations. And I like what Tim Ferriss says, that the measure of success in your life is equal to the number of hard conversations you want to have, but they don't have to be hard conversations. If we have organized workshop like Lean Inception, you can discuss like hard topics, talking about like, is that really what we want to prioritize? And have that in a collaborative way. And the collaboration in the Lean Inception is the part that gets my heart. I really love to go in a room, like, I don't care about your titles anymore. Let's just all contribute to the same idea. So yeah, that's the best part for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Roger, because it is beyond titles, right? Because for instance, if you're a great business person, most likely you spend a lot of your career on that direction. And someone like you that's an amazing technologist, you spend several years on that direction. And we do need those perspectives in the room, someone that's a very strong technologist, someone that's very strong about the business, someone that's very strong understanding the user needs. It's almost impossible to have all these in the same person at the same time. In any moment in time, you're I will use the word defending or bringing, the interest either from the business, the user, or the technology to the table.
Yeah,
that's why I think it's very important to collaborate, to bring people that have different visions, that they point at different directions, and try to figure out what is the intersection. What is that spot that's really good for our business and for our users, and it's feasible to be done by our engineers with the current technology.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Rosh.
Yeah, so that point is interesting, right, Paulo? So what we have seen when people, for instance, when security sees the Scrum demo, the sprint demo, and that's the first time that they saw a new feature that the team is saying, so this is working, it's great, we're going to put in production in the next deploy. And then they go crazy and say, wait a second, what's going on? What's happening? So it's that point for me is great, because like great companies are not made of a single smart person. It's made of a collective of great people, and empowering that many people to work together is the key part. And the Lean Inception is a great tool for that. So we have a question.
Totally.
And you mentioned a comment for you there showing up from Dana.
Oh, nice. I like this concept by Mateo, creating a safe space for people to share their information, totally, and the importance of culture nowadays. That's, and Roger using Lean Inception to have hard conversations in a better way, of course. And something really important that you mentioned, Roger, and actually you did some comments about that, Paulo, is the advanced conversations, like to have like difficult conversations in advance, right? Mm-hmm. Before the snowball, right, is taking all the place, right? That is great, and to have a engineering team as part of, because there are a lot of different flavors, or not flavors, but frameworks in which sometimes I believe we separate, right? We separate strategy and tactics. Like development team is like come later, and that is a huge mistake while building products.
I agree. Mateo, I want to bring to the attention, and something that you brought really well, and then is bring to attention, is the safety. Because to have an inception, you need to create a safe environment. If you're not able to create a safe environment, don't have a collaborative workshop to know if the environment's not safe. And I know you're a workshop facilitator. What do you do to create safety? Does the safety just shows up in the room and suddenly it's safe, or do you need to do something before? Do you assess the organization? How do you know this is a safe environment?
Totally. It's a great question, Paulo. In my experience, I would say that hearing all voices, right, giving opportunities to make a point to everyone in the room, and actually something that Roger mentioned that I loved was to not think on roles, like on titles. Sorry, not roles, but job titles, right? Yeah, you are my boss. You are no. Inside the room, the war room or the remote room, we are equal, right? We have roles and we have expertise, of course, right? But all opinions matter, and I believe that is the best way to in my opinion, to empower safety in a workshop.
I want to bring an example. Every week, I'm either facilitating Inception or I'm talking to someone about, we want to help us out, help us organize. And many instances, it's very common to have a pushback, right? Many times they invite me to help convince someone on the client or the organization to run an Inception. And usually the first thing I will assess is if there's a pushback too strong, most likely it's not a safe environment for a collaborative workshop. So do not try to enforce a Lean Inception and collaboration in an organization that does not like collaboration. No. Recently, I've been going to an organization that like every other day, they're finding one excuse to say, oh, no, now talk to that other person before you invite us to the room. And then I realized like, they don't want to be all in the same room. There's a big, it's the culture of that organization. They're not collaborative at all. And most like these people that, we're talking individually, they're calling this period before the inception, whatever, discovery, research, whatever it is, they're putting this on a few people that say, no, you talk to everyone and then you figure out what to do. Because the people on that organization, they do not want to come to the same room with everybody else. And I was like, okay, don't do a Lean Inception, do what I used to do like in 2000s in the US, like go interview everybody and write your PRD, product requirement document, and that's it. That's what they want. That's what the organization culture is asking for. And they're telling you, I don't feel safe going in the room with everybody else. Write the document and send to the engineering team, and that's it. Which I felt really bad, but if you get a pushback too much on collaborative workshop, think hard about it, because people might not feel safe, and perhaps you might not have to do it.
And allow me to say something. I believe you make a great point there, because sometimes we believe, as you mentioned, that everything fits for everyone, but sometimes depends on the context. For instance, some years ago, I had a mission. Working for a company, I had a mission to bring Agile, like Scrum and Agile methodologies, to a bank, and that was hard, hard as hell, as you can imagine, because they were used to work in certainty. They know what will happen in a bank, right? In their context, so. It was really, really difficult to bring the Agile mindset, right? Mostly not the methodology, but the mindset to them. And actually, I learned the hard way that it made sense, right? It's not that, as you mentioned, that not collaborating too much or not being agile or working waterfall. It's not that it's wrong, right? Depends on the context. So that is a smart point, what you made, Paulo.
Okay. Roger.
Yeah.
This one's for you.
Yeah, Gabriel, thanks for the question. I have a question in your experience, is it enough to take the Lean Inception training? What else is needed to start applying Lean Inception effectively? That's a great question. Who wants to pick that first? I can go. I can go. I definitely believe the book and the training are the starting point. That's where you're gonna get it from people who are doing it in the field. And like, there's so many things that we could tell here about, like the lesson inceptions we run and different things. For instance, that example that Paulo gave is a fantastic thing. Paulo and I, we have a great one where we did a Lean Inception together back in San Francisco, and then the final decision was this product is not viable. We saved, I don't know, millions of dollars for that company. So, but definitely, I believe that the starting point is training, the book, and then find ways to iterate over it. Start running it. Start applying the concepts. Start putting it into practice and adapting as well, because although there is a receipt and like a great agenda, and I love it because it's easily reproducible. Now you can execute it in 1 week, and then later in the future or another week you run it again. But start understanding, okay, what should I improve? How do I bring more safety to the room? How do I make sure that everybody's collaborating to the conversation? And what did I learn from the last one?
Totally.
I believe that's a great starting point. Mateo, what's your view on it?
Really quick, I believe totally agree on everything you mentioned, Roger, and I will add that something I did in a former organization that I worked was to start, how do I say, like baby steps, generating buy-in, like internal buy-in. For instance, hey guys, like internally, I have this great tool, right? That maybe we can review together, like in a one hour call, and I can present you, this is like a narrative, like a workshop, etc. And then I had the chance to run it for a client, and I record the session, like not all the session, because it was like well, as you know, 1 week, of course, but just a feedback round at the very end, and how was the how do I say, like the emotions, like the client and team and everything. And that small chunk, small video, I distributed that like along the organization, and that was a great starting point to generate buy-in. So baby steps, I would say. And if you are within an organization, like try to find ways to show the power, right? The goodies, the good things about Lean Inception.
Gabriel, I would add, in English we have that saying, like birds of the same feathers. If you're in a large organization, try to recognize the birds of similar feather, people that also like facilitating this kind of stuff, and get together with them. Like if you're in Brazil, a lot of companies already do Lean Inception. So most like someone will run a Lean Inception, and then you join that facilitator, or you ask to watch or participate on one, so you can learn by watching other people doing as well, right? If in Brazil it's very common Inception, but let's say you're in Japan, Lean Inception started in Brazil, so we don't have a lot of companies using Inception today in Japan. So you need to find birds of the same feathers outside of the organization in other communities. For example, in Japan, the design sprint community, it's a little bigger. So try to get closer to that community, because they also face challenges on facilitating stuff, a different goal, and then you learn facilitation skills. And then with the Lean Inception book, you apply those two together, in a new organization, in a new place, in a new area. Mateo,
I have a interesting story about like introducing Inception to a company, if you guys allow me. So the company that I was working for was a bank, actually, and they were about to release a huge lending product. They decided that, okay, the next big product will be a lending product. And I was there, and there was another person from ThoughtWorks who used to work for ThoughtWorks as well, who knew what I was talking about. And she asked me, can you lead this? And I said, we have to start with Inception. We need to put everybody in the room and talk about it. The Lean Inception is the best tool. And then we had to go through this process of convincing the business that that was the right thing to do. And I remember the conversation with the VP of product. And then I draw all the workshops, how it would work and everything. And I was presenting to the guy saying, so we're going to do this, we're going to talk about that, we're going to do this, and we're going to talk about that allow us to surface that problem, blah, 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 everything else. And then he turned back to me and said, have you ever considered the cost of putting off that people in the room for 1 week? And then I look at him and I said, have you ever considered the cost of not allowing that people to be together for 1 week for this big project that will take like 1 or 2 years to build? And then he looked at me and I said, okay. He didn't say yes or no. Until today, I'm not sure if he allowed me to do that, but we did it. And let me tell you that the first day of the Inception, the first day, saved 3 months of software development, because we discovered that what the CEO had promised to the investors, the VP of product didn't know about. So the whole product team, they built a vision that would never work, would never ever work. So I believe that's why he never came back to me and said that was a mistake, but it is what it is. It's a new tool that most, as Paulo mentioned, most of the companies that are not used to digital solutions, it's strange for them to do this, but it pays out big time.
Yeah. This conversation about, it's too expensive to get people in the room. It's amazing how many times I had it. And it's just like, if you work like with Lean Startup and MVP and you validated your hypothesis, like the thing is, we don't know exactly the direction we're gonna take. It's that thing that I showed about a train wreck or a trail. In reality, we're not on the old world anymore that we could plan a project and just follow it 1 year and later on we figure out, we got exactly what we wanted. No, we know it's not like this anymore. So we do need those quick alignments and a lot of verifications and pivoting to know, we got this, we got there. And you save a lot of money by doing this. But if you're not aligning to figure out where is the first base, guess what? The top of the mountain is there. Each one will go to a different place. Mm-hmm. You waste a lot of time and resources and money. Okay, yeah. Let me bring a question from the audience here.
Mateo, do you want to get that?
So, yeah, of course. Do you perceive initial Lean Inception sessions as starting point for an enterprise agile transformation? In other words, when are you as an organization ready for a Lean Inception approach? Well,
really good question.
Yes, it's a good one. Maybe you can answer it, Paulo.
I went through a transformation. The year was 2014. I stayed on a large organization for 1 year leading the transformation. And it's quite interesting because I brought everything that I knew, right? Lean, Agile, Scrum, Lean Inception. And it's quite interesting from everything that I left on the table and I left the company, the one thing they keep on doing today is the collaboration. So they start doing Lean Inception for everything. I'm like, no, don't do Lean Inception for everything. But then I realized that they guided their transformation based on collaborative thinking, because they were not used before. Before it was like sending emails, business requirement docs, decision, project planning decision, and go at the end of the year, and you decide, this project will it's approved because we believe the net effect of this, blah, 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 we'll give this. And then on the next year, there is a project team for that. They totally change it. It becomes a lot of collaborative workshops to make decisions. For example, collaborative workshop for beyond budgeting. That was happening every quarter. Mm-hmm. Collaborative workshop for figuring out what's the OKR. Collaborative workshop to bring, now that we have the vision, the team has to get started. That was the Lean Inception. And that was amazing, like how smart that organization was to get from, Scrum, Lean Inception, the collaborative part. And then that organization guided that transformation based on collaboration, So for me, totally. It's more than only the Lean Inception. It's changing the ways of working and becoming more collaborative and easily adaptable for the new complex world.
Totally, and I will add, Paulo, that empowers the culture of experimentation, right? Because as you mentioned, a team that is aligned, that can take decisions, right, and can create a little, like, small experiments, and how do I say, lose the, or forget that sense of yeah, we need to be successful no matter what. Like, we can fail, we can learn, right? The good thing about Lean Inception, another good thing actually that I love, is that, as you mentioned, brings a lot to the table, but as a trampoline. Like, you are, how do I say it? You are acquiring a mindset, like a lean mindset, like as we mentioned, agile design thinking. So, but it's not that you need to learn about all that, right? To, how can I say, to once at the very beginning. It's like you have, it's easy. You have a framework in which you start doing, you start collaborating, and you start doing a lot of stuff at the same time without even knowing. That's my point.
Can
Like
I?
a trampoline.
Let me bring a different perspective to this. I see Lean Inception as a superpower. So
Nice.
depending on your position, normally people.
Oh, Roger froze. Well, nice.
Yeah.
Depending on your position.
It was
Okay.
like,
Am
You're
I back?
Roger. You're back.
Yeah.
you're
You
there.
froze, saying depending on your position.
Yeah, so like product managers, scrum masters, delivery leads, architects, like developers, even if your organization is not ready for it, from the moment that you acquire that superpower, you can then, because remember, it's just a tool that goes in your tool belt, that you can, once you master it, you can then pull the tool and say, can I talk to you, my product manager? I was thinking about the user journey for this new product we are developing. And what exactly do you see that interaction happening here? Or to the architect to say, so I was thinking about the effort, and if we have certainty that we can implement that machine learning algorithm, it becomes a tool to you. So even if you cannot brand it and then go and convince everybody to come to a room, it becomes it's so powerful to have the ability to facilitate it, either in the room or in a virtual room. But that's how I perceive it. So it is, Paulo, let me know if it's a scene to do that, to break it and pick parts of it instead of running it. But that's what I see.
I do this all the time. Like, it's a tool, it's a recipe. The thing about the recipe is, it's like, I had to learn cooking because my son was on MasterChef. You know this, Roger. Like, and the thing about a recipe is, like, don't read the recipe and change on day one because you never did it. But, like, read the recipe, follow the recipe steps. Just like to make a cake, follow exactly the same steps. Follow it 3 times, and then you start changing it. Because once you're comfortable with it, change, pick only the things you want, mix different recipes, right? But if at the first try you start changing the recipe, you won't get to the accumulated experience. And just so you know, like, before writing the Lean Inception and saying, oh, this sequence is really good and facilitating this way is really good, that's based on, like, my experience. Like, I've been facilitating Inception since 2006, and then Lean Inception, that style, since 2011. And the book in English is written in 2018. So I was accumulating a lot of experience. And a lot of this practical experience that I didn't even know why did this and this go along together. I don't know, but they did. So I kept on repeating until years later, I'm like, oh, looking from design thinking perspective, from this perspective, that was a really good combination. But, like, it was by chance, it was experimental. So do follow the recipe until you get comfortable, and then please change it. I change it all the time. Mateo do the same, right?
Totally. And I want to make a point about the metaphor that you used about, well, MasterChef or building a cake, right? And what happens if you don't have flour? You realize that you don't have sugar I don't know, some key part, right? So probably the product, the final product, the output won't be as much as good as you expect, right? Same in Lean Inception. About what you have like key roles, right? That needs to be there, like the let's say the product trio, right? Like business representatives, tech or engineering, right? And
really
some
good,
user.
really good comparison. It's like what's the word? Fermento, Roger. If you don't have, how's fermento in English? I forgot.
Fermento.
The thing that makes the cake gets bigger.
Exactly.
If you don't have information on the user, maybe your cake won't get big because you don't have information.
Is the powder.
Right? Yeah. Baking powder. If you don't have baking powder, maybe, you mix everything, but then it doesn't grow. So you do need information from the user, for example.
Totally.
Okay.
That is really important.
Yes.
Another good question here from Dan.
I can read that. Is it right to say that design thinking gets you to your vision goals, high level intent, 30,000 view, and Lean Inception is what gets you from there to your sprints down to 10,000 feet view? Paulo, I remember your slides. The first time that I saw your slides with the airplane.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Which slide with the airplane?
The airplane exactly explaining that from high level going down,
bring it lower. Yes. Then I'll tell you my story. Like I worked for ThoughtWorks since 2006. I was a developer, right? As a consultancy, you get invited to organization, and it usually was to get started on delivery. So for me, the perfect world, you do have continuous discovery, and you do continuous delivery. And in the perfect world, you're a product team. Everybody's doing everything. It's on the product team. On that perfect world, you do not need a Lean Inception because everybody's already aligned doing continuous discovery and continuous delivery. But I don't see that product world very often. In fact, when they call consultants, usually it's because they want someone to do delivery. So you're not part of whatever discovery was going on. So the Inception, it does help connect this world. Like, hey, there is information here. We're about to start something. Let's make sure everybody's aligned. So that's where Lean Inception was born. But then I go to organizations now that are very strong on continuous discovery. And even on those organizations, there is value on some instance to run a Lean Inception, except from what you said. Because you might have continuous discovery that's look more on a higher level, but you need to bring it down to the lower level, like what are we building next? To help validate this that we think it's good finds we did. So yes, Lean Inception is bringing the level closer to earth. It's making for me is that bridge connecting on one side of the river, that's the continuous delivery side, with the continuous discovery. That's I think they're part of the same river. They're side by side, but you need to connect them from time to time. If the river is very narrow, you don't need the bridge. You just keep on jumping from one side to the other. If the river is a little bigger, you might need the bridge because there are people that need to cut a line from time to time. So I think Lean Inception is this thing that it's just as you said. That's why I really like your comment. From 3,000 feet to closer to earth. Roger.
Good question.
No, I agree completely. I think a scenario where that would not be necessary would be an early stage startup where when everybody can sit on the same table, like around the same table, then you have basically the whole company there, right? But the moment that you have product, engineering, testing, sometimes testing is a completely different department, security, legal, how will you keep legal involved in all the daily stand-ups from the delivery and all the interviews with clients from the product discovery? How they basically cannot do that. So at some moment, it needs that alignment to say, okay, so we have the high-level view. We don't need the details to organize the OKRs, but at some moment, people have to get together and align, right? And the whole thing is about bringing an alignment, saying, okay, what's the small things that we're going to do now? What's the detail of it? And not to the detail, there's no user stories produced during that, but you have to narrow down your focus. Definitely.
Totally. Another thing that I believe is key, I don't want to derail too much the conversation, but how Lean Inception is a great asset to have in your portfolio. Why? Because, in my opinion at least, because lives very well with other methodologies. It's not that it's clashing, right? Well, in the past we had a webinar with Paulo talking about design sprints versus Lean Inception and how you can run an Lean Inception to produce material for the design sprint, like prior to design sprint, or the opposite, design sprint and then a Lean Inception. How lives with Agile, with the Scrum. Actually, you, Paulo, in your presentation at the very beginning, you explained, right, how fits between the vision and a strategy and execution and everything. So, it's, as I mentioned before, my perception always is that it's the glue. It's the glue that fits there, right? And well, it's a great asset. Actually, it's great to use this methodology to have it as a mindset. Let's say.
Hey, going back to the name we didn't know, Alexandre did a really good comment. Information is the new baking powder. No, really smart, right? And there's something important to say here is with the name, I use the name Lean Inception because Lean Inception is how Agile projects start their work. So I come from Agile methodology, so I kept the name Inception. But one thing I don't like the name is the word Inception, because the word Inception means the beginning. And the world does not start with an inception, with a Lean Inception. There are things that happened before. For example, information. If you don't bring any information to the room, it's all assumptions. It's too hypothetical, Do bring some information to the room. Do not spend 6 months gathering information, bring to the room. That's old style. But do bring the information you have. Do some user research. Bring the technical people that do have already information on their database, wherever it is. Do bring the business people that have their reports. They have the requests from the other business area. They do have information in their reports and in their mind. Bring this information to the room. That information is the baking powder. That's the information that makes your, the MVP that starts with a cupcake becomes big as a cake. So I really like this sentence. Roger, this is for you. It's your book now. If it's the new baking powder.
No, but I love that point. You know what I like about it? Because the Lean Inception facilitates the company to move from opinion-based decision-making to informed decisions-making.
Yeah.
That's completely different. And that is like, there's no problem. There's no problem with the highest salary in the room believing that, I don't know, the new website should be blue. That person deserves that opinion, but it's just opinion. Let's run an experiment, ask the UX research guy saying, okay, what's the color that the users like the most? What did you learn during the product discovery? And bring that information to the room and then make informed decisions.
And then validate it, and then run a B test. Put half the people with the blue and half the people with the green, and look at the data. Yes, blue was better. Like, no, didn't make a difference. And then you go to the next one and next one.
Yeah. Something that I notice on me, and I believe on most of the people that I see running Inception, is that we feel comfortable with the uncertainty. We keep reducing scope and narrow down and focusing, but we feel comfortable with saying, I don't know, let's validate. We don't know yet. That's why we go gonna iterate. And it's okay. We sit in the room with the question, we keep the question, we don't negate it, we don't say, oh, it's a silly question. We accept the question and find out the solution. So I love that. I love that spirit of the Lean Inception.
Yeah. So I facilitate many inceptions, right? And then several times at the end, people ask me, hey, Caroli, is this a good strategy? What's your opinion on this MVP? And I also I'll tell you in 6 months, from the business perspective. But one thing I do answer is about the energy of the team, the energy of the group. And then I say, I know this is going to be successful, not because of the plan for that solution, that MVP, whatever it is, because of the energy in the room. Because once people get together and they have good relationship, and you can feel this, even on the remote world, you feel it, like people are friendly, they are happy. They together made a strategical decision. I don't care if they get on the spot or if they'll have to pivot a lot. Because once they're unified as a group, if they pivot, they'll pivot really fast and they will achieve success. So the most important thing of a Lean Inception, of a collaborative workshop, is not the artifact that's generating itself. It's the relationship between people. It's the commitment. For me, that's how I answer. I know it's going to be successful or not. It's based on the energy, not on the artifact itself.
I love that point, Paulo. Love that point, because it's you can see it, you can feel it.
You feel right?
Yes. It's really important.
I wish I could measure it. It's a feeling.
Yeah,
you feel that energy. Like, I know when it's a successful team, and I'm lucky that I work in ThoughtWorks. So a lot of Inception I facilitate is with two teams, like a part of the teams from ThoughtWorks, part from the client. So I have access to the team. 1 month later, 6 months later, 1 year later, so I can follow what happened after the Lean. That's why I have a lot of information. Like, so I know I facilitate and I follow what happens after. And then some large organizations that they keep on inviting me back, I know sometimes before, during, and after. That's how I try to correlate things and see what worked well, what didn't work.
It's nice. And actually something that I believe is really important, based on what you mentioned, is the ownership. How the process generates ownership and internal buy-in, of course, like people that are collaborating and are creating their own post-its, putting their own ideas out there, right, to discuss with the rest of the group. So trust, confidence, right, and ownership, to me, is how can I say it, are game changers in order to be successful, or to have, like, as you mentioned, to elevate the energy. Totally.
Which connects to this amazing question from Roberto, right? I like it. Is there a way to know if Lean Inception brought a positive result to the group? Roger, you gave one example, that project that we were together, and it was a positive result, that like project cancel on week 1 instead of wasting 1 year. And for me, that's a positive result. Like, how do you measure? Give me more examples. The energy, it's a hard one, because how do you measure energy?
That's one thing. So there are qualitative things that we can capture. Normally, like I like to ask for feedback in the end. Your time to be here, do you think that was a good way to run this process, or that? And normally there's a lot of feedback about, I love that everybody was able to collaborate. There are situations where you have to pay attention. Okay, there's someone who is not collaborating. Why they're not collaborating? They're not talking, and then you have to facilitate that and ask more of that. And I wish there was a way to run like a real scientific method of tests with a control group and understand that. No, so what we have is only like qualitative. Comparing, because it's impossible, right, to see.
Do a A/B, right? To one group, do a placebo inception. To the other group, do a real inception.
Exactly. But the result, when we see, I like what you mentioned, which I say we are building the machine. Everybody thinks that we are building the product, but running the Lean Inception, normally what we are building is the machine that's going to build the product, and the machine is who learn how to collaborate, who learn where to find answers, who learn how to discuss. For instance, we could measure the number of interruptions that happens during conversation. If people are able to finish their sentence, if they're able to challenge or question a point without getting to conflict, without getting to combat. All of that is something that a team needs to adjust its dynamics to work well together. But normally they don't have that ability, right? Because you start with project execution, with a schedule, with a tight budget, and like many other things happening. The Lean Inception creates an environment that gives the team the opportunity to figure out how they together as well. So that's something that I like to see.
Roger, I want to bring this back on the days where I talk about 2012, 13, when Roger and myself worked. We were at the same location at the same time. Yeah. It's quite interesting because back then I was not a Lean Inception facilitator. After 2014, like I was only facilitating Lean Inception for different clients of ThoughtWorks. But before, I'll simplify. In ThoughtWorks Brazil, we have 2 large accounts. One of them I was part of, so I could facilitate all the inceptions for all the teams. The other one I could not facilitate because I was already busy. And then I could compare the difference between one large account that had someone facilitating all the inceptions with another large account, which, by the way, the account I was working on, the technology was worse. The domain, people are like, oh, the other one is more interesting. Even the rates we received was lower, but the teams were happier and the results for the business were better, and that for me was showing something, And then a third one showed up that they went on a very traditional agile style without an inception, planning the overall amazing product in 1 year, and it was a huge failure. And then I started realizing that it's not the failure rate, but the ability that the group has to pivot brings happiness. The alignment to start with, that we listen to everybody and pay attention to everybody, and then we build a team more than a strategy. And then the ability that people have to pivot, it reduces that anxiety that uncertainty brings us. We're like, okay, let's embrace uncertainty and we'll pivot. That's fine. Which is different than, oh, let's make a huge plan and then we feel bad because we're not following the plan. But on the other hand, if you follow the plan, the business failed, so that creates.
It's great. Yeah, totally. I actually totally agree on all what you're mentioning, folks. And I want to make a point about how Lean Inception positions you as a facilitator, right? And in my experience, you are in a position that how can I say it? It's always success. Even the team is not doing the project, deciding to not continue, or doing a great MVP, and so on and so forth. But how or why I'm saying that you are in the best position possible, let's say, facilitating, orchestrating everything, because the real value there is the alignment, and that happens as Roger mentioned, from the very first moment you put the person in the room, alignments start to happen. So if we are talking about how to measure, right, success of a Lean Inception, I would say that it's qualitative, of course, but alignment. Like people lower anxiety because they start to speaking, start to feel heard. That is, to me, is like, I don't know the most important, but one of the key moments of a Lean Inception is when you start to see people that are starting to tell the story and challenging, right, the rest, and so as a facilitator, it's a really safe spot to be there, right, and allow all that conversations happening because it's instant value.
But I have a lot of inception stories, right? When you talk about majority of inceptions, people get aligned, and at the end we have a solid plan, a solid MVP plan that we can start and we pivot. But some of them, like the example that Roger had, one we had that we cancel. Another one, that one we cancel after 1 week. On the showcase, we present the result and we're like, whoa, that's not what I expected. It costs much more than we think we will bring on results. Let's cancel the project. But another one I had was on the very first day, when we were in the room, when you did the product vision, they could not agree on the product vision because I will oversimplify things, right? It's like a bank thing, and some of the stakeholders in the room, they're like, oh, I want the decision to be made by the manager. The agency manager will make the decision how much credit we give to the person. And other people in the room was like, no, we want this decision to be made. We'll create algorithms that will decide how much we give to the people. and you're pointing on total opposite direction. One's like give total autonomy to the manager of that branch, and the other's like zero autonomy to the manager of the branch. And when writing the product vision, like you could see, like you cannot write one product vision because they're talking about two different directions for the same product. And it was a big fight, it was a big disalignment right then and there. It's interesting because they kick off the beautiful words, oh, we need this because with this we reduce the risk. Everybody agree. When you go one level lower and say, what is the vision of the product? Disalignment, each one pointed a different direction. And guess what? As a facilitator, don't try to rush and make a generic sentence that everybody's happy. Like, stay there. I recognize there's a disalignment. One thing I did, I called the other people and say, hey, can you come tomorrow morning? I didn't move forward to the next activity. And then on the next morning, like, hey, we're still on the product vision. Help us clarify this. And then they realize, guess what? We're going to go in this direction. Hey, thank you for being here. But decisions made, that's the direction the product, the RB is going to take. It was a big disalignment, became really visible on day one. Instead of postponing and we have problem during execution, or have a weird product that fits, point at different directions at the same time.
Totally. So something really important nowadays, how to say no.
How to say no.
Yes. In my experience, I believe that is the most difficult part of our jobs.
Especially when there are two very strong stakeholders saying yes and yes, and you're the one that, oops, there's something here. Bring everybody in the room,
Exactly.
Sometimes not you repeating the message like, hey, we're all together in the room, let's talk. And then you ask, is this red or blue? And let it happen.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Another one here.
I can read it. Do you need to repeat or update the results of the Lean Inception periodically? And how to approach that best? Oh, that's a very common question, right? So, because let me go first on this, Paulo, then. Because when the final product is the sequencer and the MVP canvas and the alignment on what to execute, and for sure that will not last forever. So at some moment, probably you will have to decide what's next. But I don't see the Lean Inception as the only way to decide what's next. On what's the capability of the product management team and how they do product discovery. There are other ways, but I would say in my experience, it gives at least 6 months to 1 year of enough things to research and find out and figure out.
Yeah. It depends on the context of your organization,
Yes.
right? Roger Red said, I was working on a bank, like on a large organization, time lasts like 6 months, it's like an MVP on a large organization, we're talking about 2-3 months,
Yes.
In a small organization, startups, we're talking about MVPs
Hours.
of hours and weeks. So, but I like what Roger said. Lean Inception is not the only tool. It's a good tool to get that alignment, but like we need to be doing continuous discovery. We need to be doing continuous delivery. We need to be doing A/B testing and a lot of things. And if you work with Lean Inception and you have an MVP, once you put that MVP in the hands of the users, you have data. So facts are much more important than what you had on the Lean Inception. On the Lean Inception, you had data from research. After you have them in the hands of the users, you have data from usage. So get back as a group, definitely not a Lean Inception, not a collaborative workshop of 1 week, not at all. But get back as a smaller group and say, hey, this is the data from the usage. This is the new data from the business. What next?
Totally. Something that I love about the methodology is that you know that there are methodologies that do not apply in the same way, let's say for let's say startups or corporations, let's say, right? Because or let's say product on the other hand, product organizations, right, like startups or the organizations that build products or agencies. But Lean Inception is like, you can, how can I say it? You can put the process and works, right? You can use it for B2B, for B2C, or corporations, startups, product oriented organizations, and works. Because why? In my opinion, and this is just based on my experience, because it's alignment, right? And you need an aligned team to produce something that makes sense in some way, right? What's your perspective about this, folks?
I agree. I love it, and it's exactly that. Because when we look at what exists out there, Lean Inception fits perfectly. I have that question for you, Mateo, to talk about the relationship between design sprint and Lean Inception. I see it fitting a space to bring the alignment. I like a lot what Mark Kagan from Inspired How to Create Digital Products talk about, where you need a team of missionaries, not mercenaries for your product. And I like how Lean build perfectly to say, yeah, we don't want you guys to work on our product vision. We want this product to be the result of our work together. So be part of this. Come to the room and let's talk about this product that we all gonna build together. So I love that it brings that alignment and makes everybody missionaries of the product, saying, so that the engineer can say that product is awesome because you're gonna do this. The product manager can say it's awesome because of that. Sales can be in the room as well. Marketing can be in the room. Security. Everybody can end that product and be a champion of the product that's going to be built. So I love that it empowers all these other methodologies that talk about how to create digital products as well. And Inception is like that glue to say, okay, now that you guys from the product management team, you did all the research, fantastic. How many interviews? 100 interviews, fantastic. A lot of knowledge acquired. You guys from the engineer team, so you are using cloud computing, what? Serverless, fantastic. You guys from security. Times, okay, come to the room. Let's talk about this. And that's the fantastic part for me. Yeah.
Totally. I want to add, Roger and Paulo, that using the same metaphor, like cooking, that Lean Inception is like eggs, right? Because it's the glue between all the ingredients.
I have to visit Mateo for his
he's a good chef, huh? He's a good chef, I can tell.
Yeah, I'm getting like I have to visit this guy.
I'm hungry now.
Roger, I really like Mark Kagan's style. It's quite interesting because he also has a post about missionaries, not mercenaries. And sometimes you talk against consultants, which I'm a consultant, but I totally agree, and I'll be honest. As a consultant, I would feel really weird. I would say the old style Inception. When you go there as a consultant, give me all the requirement documents. Let's talk about everybody. I'm like, as a consultant, I understood what you need. And then I'll build a plan for 1 year down the line, which keeps me busy, me and my consultancy, because we'll be working, doing a lot of output, and we're delivering, I would feel really bad with that. So instead, like, okay, I know I'm external, I'm a consultant. I know that you could not have that amazing self-sufficient product team. Therefore, and they understand, the organization is growing fast. Sometimes you need to hire consultants because you cannot hire people fast enough and build your team. So, and whatever, like you brought me as a consultant, this other person from this other group, and sometimes it's even an internal consultant. It's people from different areas on the organization that do not work together every day. So at least let's get aligned really fast, and let's not build a 1 year plan and everybody, as a consultant, I'll be making money for 1 year. No, we're building a very short plan to work with the MVP, get information, decide what's next. And if possible, you build this capability within your organization and you get rid of the consultants sooner, maybe in 3 months. So once you figure out how to work this new way and you have enough engineering power, perhaps you might not need consultants, or use this period Why you have consultants? To hire the people, to build that product autonomous team. And your goal should be, after a while, be on your own, build a product team. After a while, do run continuous discovery and continuous delivery, and you don't need Lean Inceptions anymore. Like I totally agree. That's the interesting thing. Like I really like Teresa Torres, Mark Kagan, and I'm like, and I know they read some stuff from Lean Inception. Like I hope they get the point that I use this as an alignment workshop, not as a thing that I want to be doing forever. Not at all.
No, fantastic point. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about Lean, we should not have a workshop, for longer than an hour. We're at an hour and 10 minutes. So I want the final thoughts from both of you. Roger, summarize what we talked about, our final thoughts, then Mateo and myself, and we'll close.
First, I want to say thank you for the opportunity of talking to both of you. It's always a pleasure, and I always learn heaps of things from both of you. Fantastic. It was a pleasure to be here. And for the people who are watching these either live or the recording afterwards, go Google, get the book. There will be training happening in different time zones in English. In Spanish, probably. Do Spanish as well, Paulo?
Yes,
Spanish
yes.
and Portuguese. Well. Yeah, I for the last years, I have been saying Lean Inception is the next big thing that's coming. So we had the continuous Lean Inception is just that missing piece that completes the puzzle. And in your organization, I recommend you looking at constraints, looking at what are the biggest bottlenecks at the moment? Is it to discover what's the problem we have to solve? Or is it to transition that information to the people who are going to solve it? Is it to put it in the hand of the final user and then measure if there's success? And use Lean Inception as the way to navigate those bottlenecks and reduce it as well. And keep sharing your experience, because there are so many companies who are innovating and bringing new products to the market faster and faster. And I believe that all the companies can do that. So keep running Lean Inception.
Nice. So, well, as you mentioned, Roger and Paulo, thank you for having me. I believe this. I learn a lot every time that we have a conversation. Thank you for actually to the people that was attending this talk. And actually, I will, since my how I said, my thing or my focus, my view is around facilitation, right? Because I'm a facilitator full time today. I will say that I will see organizations in the future as like organizations of facilitators, like every one of us being a little facilitator, like having some skills to open conversations, to instead of discussing or having put in a room and do a quick dynamic and everything. So what I will say that is that Lean Inception allows us to do that, to start with that mindset, with that skills, right? And position ourselves in our organizations, as I mentioned, in a different, how can I say it, step, like, because you will turn from an individual contributor or someone that is working with a goal in a team, etc. If you facilitate conversations, you can be, let's say, in some way leading a space, right? Like representing a space in your organization around experimentation and ultimately innovation, right? So I will really recommend to, as Roger mentioned, we are training. We have plenty of trainings in different languages around the world, around different time zones. And I will, if I were you, I would take a look at the book, as you mentioned, and training and all that. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mateo. Okay, I want to close sharing a little bit more about this story. I was thinking here while Mateo and Roger are talking. It is not a coincidence that Lean Inception was born in Brazil. From me, like I'm a consultant. I lived in the US, then I moved to India, and we're talking about the years here of the software factory that would send projects here. Then I moved to Brazil and I was working to US. And again, some place might used to treat Brazil as a software factory. And I was like, no, like the software world does not work like this, but I'm a consultant and I don't like to be, someone that just got the project for a long time. And Lean Inception was born in Brazil for this reason, from all the history that I had. And Brazil, it's a different language, so I could disrupt, I could use something different. And it came out really well. In Brazil, a lot of people use it. Like the book's a bestseller on Amazon. And I was living in Brazil from 2010 to 2019. A lot of people use it in Brazil. And that's the reason, like, why do Roger runs Lean Inception? Roger now lives in Australia, but we work together in Brazil. What about Mateo? Mateo's from Uruguay, and Lean Inception was born in the south of Brazil. So Mateo got a hold of that book years ago and was like, wow, there's something here. So what I want to tell you is like, yes, this was born in Brazil. Now we're slowly bringing it to other languages. Now it is in Spanish, it is in French, it is in English. But we're not bringing it through our organization. We're bringing it to the people that run it, through professionals, not trainers. Like each one of us, we go to organizations who have been running it several times, and we're sharing. So it's a community thing. So you get, if you're watching this video now, like you got a hold of something, like get the book, get the training, join the community, like find people that like this kind of stuff and use it, because the main goal of Lean Inception is a collaborative workshop that create better work environments. And all of us, you want to be happy, not only when you arrive home after work. You want to be happy during your work day. You want to be listened on the workshop. You want to be part of the strategic decision. Like I've been working with Lean Inceptions and I've been following the teams using Inceptions. It creates better work environment. And for me, that's the main goal. That's why I spend my time sharing about it, because I want to make this a better world. And if we start in our work environment, that's amazing, because like that 8-10 hours a day, it's amazing. I'm happier. I'm happy for my kids. I'm happier for the church, for all the places they go, and we'll create a better place for us to live at, and better products with good intentions.
Totally.
Okay. So once again, thank you, everybody. And we'll see each other again soon. Roger, Mateo, always a pleasure to be chatting and have this amazing conversation with you.
My pleasure.
Anytime.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.